Hey everybody, it's Dave with Honest Gear Reviews. Today we are looking at the Acoustic Model 320 bass amp. This comes from around 1977, and we are using as our reference bass today a 2011 Fender American Deluxe Precision bass, which I've got in passive mode, and we're going into a bag end 112 cab. I got this amp about 15 years ago off of eBay, and I understand that I am the second owner. And I have gigged out with this amp a few times. I basically, after playing with it for about a month and a half, I just really felt that it was too cool to have out there. It's already got a couple of gig marks on it. Looks like a cigarette burn there from somebody. And I didn't want to add to that, since it was, condition-wise, I would say this is really about a 7.5, maybe an 8 out of 10. And I've been using this at home in my practice studio. This is where I've learned songs into this amp, and because it just has so many cool features sound-wise that I'd like to demonstrate here. So, basic 2-channel amp in that I can have 2 different sounds set up, and let's hear what it sounds like just kind of straight in. This is graphic EQ flat, and all the rotary EQs are flat as well. So no real surprises there. Just punchy and clean, like we expect from a solid-state amp. And it's got a 10 dB pad if I want to engage the active circuit. So I'm going to turn my bass on active now, and we'll put that in to buffer a little bit. So you can hear I've got some highs and mids dialed in on my bass. So that makes it useful for switching in the middle of a song and your gig. You want to flip into an active bass, just hit the switch and you're good to go. However, what I found most useful was if I'm going to go ahead and use use an active bass, I would probably want to have it set up a little differently. And let's just demonstrate something here. So let's say that if I was going to have my B channel be the active bass, and so now I'm going to do something a little different. Maybe I'm going to roll the treble back a little bit to compensate for the fact that I am going to make it bright here. I'm going to scoop out my mids a little bit and maybe just accentuate the bass. So I'm going to go into channel B and put it back into active mode. Here it is without the bright and with the bright. Now, truthfully, when I was using this, I didn't really use the bright switch that much. It just wasn't a sound that I needed, because when I was using an active bass, it was already pretty bright. Certainly when this amp was made, I think the only active basses that were out were maybe Alembics and a handful of other things. But so there it is there. Now, here's the cool feature of this amp. It's got a switched input. So if I go to this input now, and my first option here is for A or B, and I'm pretty sure this is foot switchable via the back. I never had the foot switch. It defaults to channel A. Oops, let's go back to passive. Right, so here again, everything's flat. But if I put it into A and B down here, I'm going to keep both these channels identical. Now I get like a power boost. It sounds really full. It sounds almost like a modern amp. That's just really nice and full and punchy, and I like that. But here's a neat feature: is that let's take advantage of the fact that I can have some different things going on here. Let's set this up as my bright channel, and I'm going to roll some bass back here, and I'll set this one up as a little more low end. Here's what it sounds like by itself. Here's channel B. You can hear there's not a lot of low end in there, but it's very articulate. I really wanted to do that. Now, when I go to here and I flip it into that, now I've got both sounds. That's just a really useful sound. That's you know, I'm gonna say almost hi-fi. Really, really cool sound for that. So that's a neat feature of this amp, is that I can have a basic sound set up and ready to go, or I can have a completely different sound that I flip into. It's for a pretty straightforward design. You've got a lot of options with this amp that I like. Now, one feature I didn't really use too much was the power boost switch. I keep it in normal mode because when I went into power mode, you know, you kind of get that blue cheer thing. Gets a little woollier in there, and maybe for some folks that was cool. It never really worked for me that well. Let me go back to flat. It sounds kind of cool at low volume, but at I remember when I was gigging, it just wasn't a desirable sound for me. But you may dig that, so have at it. And so the EQ's been flat. So let's go back to normal and just sort of boost a little bit of everything. Take that down. I like that. You I'm gonna turn the tone down on the bass too. Maybe even get rid of some of this. Maybe that. Yeah, so good old 5-band EQ. Can't really go wrong with that. And I would just use this mainly just to fine-tune. I would get my tone from here and just use the graphic EQ for dialing in when I'm in the room, just to make things, you know, to dial in the room. That's really it. This is a very straightforward amp that I, again, use just in my studio at home for practicing. It's a really fun, useful, musical sounding amp. I have nothing but good things to say about this amp, and I highly recommend these. If you come across a nice, clean 320, or you know, it's so hard to keep up with all the different acoustic model numbers, but you come up with a nice 3 Series amp with a dual channel, it's just a great amp to pick up. They can still be had at a very fair price, and if you get one that's in nice, clean condition like this, this will be an amp that you will enjoy for a long time. So any questions about this, feel free to email me, and I hope you enjoyed this and found it useful, and have fun. See ya.